Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Sunday, and welcome back to our exploration of the Havamal. This week we are going to be examining verse 4, and we'll be looking at three different translations. The first will be by Olive Bray, the second, Carolyn Larrington, and the third by Douglas Denton. Let's jump right in. First, Olive Bray. He craves for water who comes for refreshment, drying and a friendly bidding, marks of goodwill, fair fame if 'tis won, and welcome once and again. Now for Carolyn Larrington. Water is needful for someone who comes to a meal, a towel and a warm welcome, a friendly disposition if he can get it, for good words and silence and return. And now for Douglas Denton. Water is crucial for those who've materialized for dinner, plus a towel and honest friendly greetings, a good disposition if one can get it, speech and silence and return. So, we are obviously talking about the code of conduct for hospitality. We're going to be looking at the needs of the guest and also learning how to be good company when we are a guest. So, if we are hosting, it is a graceful thing to have facilities available if the guest needs to clean up. This was obviously much more practical and necessary in ancient times. Traveling conditions were very rough, baths were fewer and farther in between, and of course, before someone sits down and eats dinner and everything else, they want to make themselves presentable. Understandable enough. However, even in modern times, it's possible for us to have a visitor who had the misfortune to fall into a mud puddle right before they knocked on our door. So it's a good thing to be able to help people tidy up as best as they can if such should become necessary. Another duty of being a host is to provide sufficient food and drink for guests. Even when we're strapped for cash, offering what we can is still a valuable and meaningful thing to do. I mean, goodness knows that our ancestors were not well off, not by any description, but they still prized being hospitable when the situation called for it. There's a reason why it was a cultural value. So it seems a small enough thing for us to do what we can as our own circumstances allow. And thirdly, is making our guests feel welcome. And this doesn't have to be something over the top. I don't think that throwing a parade is going to be required. But, something simple, smiling when you invite someone in, asking them how they are, taking an interest in what they've gotten up to recently. This creates an atmosphere of goodwill, and it makes your guests feel more comfortable. And since we're, coming out of the era of lockdowns and social isolation and everything else, I think it's good for us to kind of review in of ourselves. If we have someone over, what should we be expected to do? Now, in the case of if we are ourselves the guests, learning to be good company. I think this begins with arriving and being in good humor, being respectful and grateful to our hosts, and being an active participant in the visit and contributing to the conversation, playing games if they're being played, being willing to relax and go with the flow. I think that's a good first step. It's also a nice thing to do to be able to bring something to our host, flowers, a bottle of wine, their favorite scent of candle, some little trinket that they would like. It doesn't have to be large. It does not have to be expensive. It's just a nice gesture to make, and it also helps establish that mutual goodwill and that things are coming together in a good and pleasant way. Another thing we can do when we're trying to relearn how to be a good guest is to learn the art of listening. It's important that we contribute to the conversation, but sometimes that contribution is also doing our fair share of listening. And listening is not about hearing what the other person says just so we can compose our reply. It's about genuinely caring about the substance of what's being said, absorbing that into our consciousness. And this lets the other person feel accepted and valued. And that's when you can start having a really good and beneficial exchange of energy, exchange of mutual goodwill. And it forms bonds between people, knowing that if someone comes to you and they have something to say, that you are actually hearing it, that you aren't, smiling, nodding while you're thinking about other things, or when you're saying something in reply, you completely ignore what they say. It's about showing that you care about them. And I think we are going to discover very, very swiftly, if we haven't already, that there is a great deficit in people feeling that others care about them, in a meaningful way. I'm not talking about in the social media way where people think that if they get enough likes and comments that somehow means that someone cares about them. That's an illusion. The purpose of the comments and the likes is just so that, whatever you're posting can show up in the prevailing algorithm of the platform. But being valued by people, that is about caring about their well-being, caring about who they are, why they are, what's going on with them, and them being all right actually mattering to you. That is caring, and that's what we're actually missing in our society. So, if you would like to carry on this conversation about this particular verse, I hope you'll come visit me on Blackbird's Brew. There is a link to join in the description box below. And as always, please, for the algorithm, so we can have a broader community discussion, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. Maybe eventually this will be the start of really good things. We'll have to see. But in the meantime, I think that's it for me for now. I will see you in the next video. Bye.